Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Coach JJ with NA Prep. We are here in the office today, and I just want to go over some of the things that we're looking at inside that eval. There are certain things that I'm looking for players, and largely it's based on skill, but we do have other components that we do look at when we're choosing players, because it's important maybe not to have a player that is the best in that game, but that can work with a team for that duration of time. So if we're on a spring season, I want to have a teammate on that team, a player on that team that is going to be great for the next 3 months, and that means is going to do the training, it's going to do what's asked of him or her, and are going to be committed, and they're going to show up. And so that's what I'm kind of looking for, very much in establishing a really good process in this in our selection and evaluation process. Parents love the report cards. You can add comments to all these things. It's been great. Okay. That's a shout out for Team Genius. Okay, now back to us. So, we're looking at how hard they work, how the attitude that they possess, their mental toughness and mental and emotional stability, and body language. Now, just to go over briefly, because this is something I go over the kids with every season so that they understand the behaviors that are expected of. So, work ethic is obviously how hard they're working on the ice, in their back check, in their forechecking, and drill tempo drills. Attitude obviously is itself. We're looking at a player that has a great attitude. You know what? I honestly don't mind players that don't have a good attitude, because when they come to the program, it is a great challenge for us coaches to help them redirect that and then gain that attitude. So we get players that come to our program, they may have this deficit, and once they're out of our program, they go back to their program and everybody's complimented on, wow, holy, they changed a lot. So I don't really look at that, especially during the development season. And that coach who enjoys that challenge of that player to help them through, especially if they have the talent and if there's something inside them that shows that they really want to work for it, then that's you take that chance and you give them that chance. And more often than not, we've had a lot of success doing that. So mental toughness and emotional stability is they kind of go hand in hand. It's kind of how well your player deals with a failure and the steps taking forward, and what do they do after. You'll notice players that slam their stick on the ice, players come back and cry up to the bench if a goal scores. I mean, you'll see a lot of these characteristics within these players, and that's when we start evaluating, especially on the bench or even in practice, if we're having a tough practice where there's a lot of thinking and a lot of thought process going on. In these practices, you'll notice players that either will check out or have a harder time dealing with everything like that. So we look at the mental toughness. Mental toughness in general is just something said on the ice, a bad call by an official, something on the bench, a coach giving constructive criticism. How do they take it? Do they break down? Do they cry? And that breakdown and that cry is really the emotional stability. The next thing for me is body language. I can tell a player from a mile away on their body language alone. How they get on the ice, how they sit on the bench, how they get dressed in the locker room. Body language is huge, especially for development coaches that are looking to form teams and put a group of kids together that is going to thrive for a 6-month season. So body language is big. The coaches who have been seasoned and are used to working with all these athletes, they can usually tell an athlete within the first 3 things they do. From the first 3 strides they take, first 3 shots they take on the ice, first 3 minutes of meeting a player, first 3 words that come out of their mouth. It's becoming so intuitive now, especially when you're recruiting and when you're looking for players, is we're able to look at a player and find out within the first 3 things that they do. That's why that first impression, shaking hands, looking in the eyes, those things are really, really, really important when your player is trying to get recruited. Those are the 4 things that we evaluate for character. Now, vision, we look at it a whole. It's how that player sees the ice and what they see on the ice and how they perceive. It's this ice awareness, and what I've kind of summed it up in. If you're a player who has great vision, then their hockey IQ usually tends to be higher higher than some of the other players. Their team play, how they utilize their teammates on the ice, is huge for them. And being able, one of the biggest things that I think that we lose is how well a player can anticipate. And anticipation is really being able to read that ice, really being able to break up a play and see what is unfolding. And that anticipation is extremely important when we evaluate our kids. And it's really easy to see when you're playing 3-on-3 on how many turnovers this player can create, where he can put his body to break up that play. Those are gifts, and those are really learned mainly through small area game work. They learn quicker. That's why we do a lot of small area games in all of our training. That's what we look at for that. The hockey IQ is the understanding of the game, the ice awareness they have. Team play is when we evaluate a player's ability to utilize his or her teammates, because team play shows us how aware they are of the people around them. And then our final one obviously is anticipation, how well they see the game from that defensive side when they don't have the puck. Really important. So then we'll move on to skating. You know, obviously we look at their forward stride, we look at their backward skating, we look at their transitional skating, and we look at their crossovers. We do go ahead and break that down further and evaluate each of those things on its own accord. And then we'll go ahead and write up a small summary on how we felt their forward skating was, and they'll be graded on a percentage of that. And that works. Now, if you look at us, our criteria is different. Like, there's certain things that in the past as a coach that I've realized have been more beneficial to teams and to players. And to success in these criterias. You know, not everybody's first skill is always skating forward. Not everybody's first skill is always skating backwards. Yes, it's important to have those, but that's not always somebody's strongest assets. There are some kids that are terrible skaters forward, terrible skaters backward, but for whatever reason, their transitional play and their transitional skating going forward to backwards, left to right is huge. And so those players we found actually have more effect on the ice. We judge a little more heavy on the transitional skating of everything. And then obviously there's crossovers, which are extremely important. So, and then we go ahead and skill. There's 5 criteria for skill. It's how well they control the puck. It is an art to be able to catch a puck. It is pass reception is so important. And so I included in all of our evaluations, you know, puck control, pass reception, pass execution, how well they snap that pass off, and how hard the pass is, and how they lead their players, what they do with that puck to get it to players. Do they use the wall, or do they only see straight lines? I have to get it through this group, or can they redirect it off the wall? So we look at all those things, how well they pass, execute. And then shooting, obviously we judge their shot all collectively, and obviously per their age group. And just give them and score them on how proficient their shooting is. Is the puck flat when it shoots? Is it a quick release? Are they getting power on it? So we look at all those things, and then we obviously evaluate according to their skill sets that they're showing us. And then the next one is body contact, and this is such a thing that is overlooked. It is so frustrating sometimes playing for these, or coaching with these clubs, or coaching against clubs that, you know, touching a player, rubbing them out, you know, they freak out. But the whole thing is, that's why we teach body contact at such a young age. And it really is about shoulder gain, and literally pinching someone off with your shoulder and stopping them to move, stopping their body as you're going after the puck. It doesn't mean I've got this 7-year-old skating across the ice and laying somebody out. That's not what it is. It's how well they use their angles. It's how well they use their shoulder. It's how well they attack that triangle that a player has, and how well they control and contain those players is how we judge body contact. It is an art, and it is a skill that we as all coaches should be teaching our kids, for sure. It's VSS, which we call vision, skill, and skate. So basically it breaks down, there's only 3 things that you need to do to be great at this game. To be great, to stand out, and to be above everybody else, there's only 3 things you had to do. One of those 3 things is you have to be good at skating. You have to be proficient at your skating. Doesn't mean that's your first and the best of the best. It's not the best part of your world, but you have to be able to move on the ice transitionally, laterally, forward, backwards, north, south, east, and west. You have to be able to move on that ice. And then the next one is skill, and having a skill at the same time. So your skills are important. How you puck receive, puck reception, puck execution, shooting, puck handling, body contact. Those are all skills that you use in this game. And then the last one is vision. And vision, again, vision is being able to see the ice. Vision is this ice awareness. Now, the trick is you have to be able to do all three of these things at one time. That means I have to execute my vision, I have to execute my skill, and I have to execute my skating at the same time. And what I mean by that is, too often than not, we have players that will skate as fast as they can, top speed, and their heads down. That's it. And so now at that time, yeah, they're skating fast, which is great. They sacrificed their vision for it. And most of the time, people stop moving the puck well. When you're at full speed, everything just stops and you're focused on that one thing. So right now, out of the 3 VSSs that you need, only one of them is working for you. Another instance is when you got a player, he skates down the ice, gets ready to shoot, his head goes down, and he stops skating. So now he's not using 2 of these criteria that he needs to have to be a great player. He's only dropped down to 1. He stopped his feet, his head is down, and yes, he's shooting. That's great and all. But when I shoot, I need to be executing all 3 of these things at once. And that is, I need to have my head up when I shoot, looking right at that target. And I also need to be executing the shot, but I also need to be moving my feet. So VSS are vision, skill, and skating. And the bottom line here is these players have to start doing all 3 of these things at one time if they want to be great. Now, the majority of our practices all have VSS massaged into the practice in the curriculum, so that all the drills that we're doing, we do a lot of chaos work where you have to have your head up, or you're going head to head with somebody, running into them in this chaos drill. We have drills that go against each other, against the grain, so players need to keep their head up. They're forced to keep their head up. And we are always telling the kids, move your feet, no coast shooting, move your feet. So we are always giving these reminders to these players that they have to be doing VSS all at the same time. And we've had really great success. And I think if you break it down that way for the kids, they get so much more from it. And letting them understand that picture and that concept allows them to have more control over this part of their play. VSS is extremely important, and I think if you tell the story right to your kids, that they'll grasp it and understand. Oh, there's okay, got it. I mean, all our kids know the 3 things. They all know it, and every time they're asked, they raise their hand and they know vision, skill, and skating. They know it all because we've had this conversation, and then they also execute it and realize it, and they work for it. So it's been really positive for us. So that's VSS. We have a beep test. Most of the beep tests we use probably at the beginning of a season, not so much for spring season, but the beep test on the ice is a test that really identifies your anaerobic side and really finds out where you are as an athlete. It is an extremely hard drill to do, to execute and get it at the certain level that you want. So what happens is you have players that skate from blue line to blue line, and they have to make it to that blue line before the beep goes off. They go there, they do that 4 times, and then the timer gets shorter. They get less time to get to that blue line. And so basically, one of our highest levels we've had is like a level 11. And that was from a extremely well conditioned athlete who made it to 11, and the times get really short where there's beep and where there's a beep, and they have to make it to that line before the beep. They get 2 corrections. If they missed the first time, they're noted, hey, you have to make it to the blue line before the beep, or you're out, and that's the level you end on. And so once they knew that, they pick it up and they catch that and get there before that beep. But they can only miss 2 beeps before they're done with that drill. We use the agility weave test, and they do that with and without a puck. If you have a player who is well versed in their skill set, you should not have a huge discrepancy. 2 to 3 seconds slower with a puck is kind of concern, and you want to encourage them to, 1, they have to move with the puck. Most kids, when they're executing skill or skating, they stop moving the puck and all these other skills stop developing. So encourage these kids. We do the weave test untested probably once a week at least do the drill just to keep them familiar and moving with that. Next thing is transitional skating. We're testing their transitional, how they open up and how they actually utilize their mohawks. Do that again with and without a puck. Crossover tests right and left. We're really trying to see how fast they get up to speed when they're using their crossovers. It has been very revealing for me as a coach, and so about where we are as crossovers, and they're extremely important, and they're used so much in our games, and I don't think we focus on them enough as coaches. Top speed, backwards and forwards with and without a puck, and that is 100 feet, and we're just doing that as a consistent 100 feet criteria, and they're just going as fast as they can. They're just wheeling up through the neutral zone as fast as they can. And that is our testing. I know it's been a little bit long-winded. The more in-depth stuff obviously has to do with the character, has to do with explaining, what we're looking for in the way they see the ice and things like that. That is our entire assessment. Once again, shout out to Team Genius. They do a great job at this program. We're very happy to have them be partners with them, and we love what they're doing, and we love we love what we're getting back for our kids. It's real good data. It's a real good template, and being able to have a report card that parents can see, and it also allows us to create a kind of a personal timeline for each player and show them what they did last year and what they did this year and what they're doing, and what's next. So it gives us these little cool dots that show us the progression that our kids are making, or if they're not making progression, which is what I really look for, so that we can keep pushing our kids. This is Coach JJ. Apologize for how long it is, but I thought it needed a lot of explanation so that you guys can understand exactly what we are trying to do. Parents, obviously, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Go ahead and text me. Otherwise, I will see you around the rinks.